Welcome to Great Awakenings, Radical Visions of Spiritual Love and Evolution. My name is Amy Edelstein, and in this third video of our short additional learning series, I wanted to bring you a few more recommendations of how to engage with the work of the mystics in a way that's really going to help deepen your experience and also lead to a type of inner and personal transformation that will be expressed in how we inquire, period, how we engage in our relationships, how we relate to the world, how much plasticity is there in our being, how much openness is there, how much of a sense of inquiry is there, how committed are we to living a spiritual life in such a way that we really want to embody those qualities, and we don't have a fixed idea about how those qualities are going to be developed, that we're open to continually stretching the fabric of ourselves, loosening the weave so that new light can emerge through. And that light is going to be informed by the totality of all of the spiritual practice and work we've done, and not limited or restricted by any more dogmatic conclusions that we may have drawn. It's very challenging in these days to engage with spiritual writings in a way that's not already known, that we don't already have a lot of conclusions about who's at the leading edge, who were the great mystics of the past, who can we learn from and who can we not learn from in a way that's going to be useful. It's important to see all of the great mystics who come before us as visionaries and pathfinders in their own right. Now, they may have had limitations in their view. They may have had cultural conditioning that created a lot of distortion in the conclusions that they drew. But what we can learn from some of them is what it takes to push understanding, to try to inquire in a way that leads to transformation. And it creates a quality of humility and respect. Because when we start to walk a path of spiritual inquiry authentically ourselves, and when we start to really want to awaken in a way that has power to, inner strength, and has the power to enrich our lives in a way that develops meaning, we start to appreciate that each of these mystics had an incredible spirit and a love and a passion and a calling. And while we may not agree with all of the conclusions, as I said, that they drew, that we can find resonance and feel that we've enlarged our spiritual community by standing shoulder to shoulder with them. So the three recommendations I'm going to make today as ways to help you really engage in a transformative way with spiritual writings and with the mystics have to do with this. So the three tools for transformation I want to encourage you to work with and to hone and to develop are learning to see through the mystic's eyes, what the world looked like from their eyes, from their cultural perspective, and then learning to let go more deeply within, and cultivating gratitude for those who've come before. So those are three tools for transformation that are probably things that we're doing, but by making them conscious and by working them, we will start to develop a dimensionality with the way that we engage with the work of others. We'll start to develop a type of discrimination that is open and sharp, but not critical. It's like the refined clarity that comes when you bring things into focus, rather than the type of rigidity that comes when we're trying to uh, solidify certain conclusions about that which is always a mystery. Spiritual life, spiritual development, at its heart, has to do with that which is the nature of ourself at the deepest level, with consciousness, with oneness, with the Godhead, with emptiness. And that's something that we can know a lot about and we can have experiences of, but we want to maintain a light touch with the conclusions that we draw so that we really become spiritual pioneers like those that we admire. So the first tool for transformation, to learn to see through their eyes, is something that's very challenging. But what it does is it helps us start to objectify our own worldview and our own lens. So can we try to see the world through Lama Yeshe's eyes, a Buddhist teacher in his 40s who left Tibet when the Chinese occupied his homeland, who ended up in Nepal, who's one of the first Tibetans to start to translate this Buddha Dharma that had grown up under particular circumstances on the plateau of Tibet in this kind of ethnic monoculture to the West. And he was teaching in the late 60s and 70s and early 80s to Westerners who were pretty rough and ready. They were mostly aspiring, hippies who were going east, who were letting go of cultural mores, who were letting go of discipline, who were letting go of a type of American materialism. And so a lot of his teachings grew up, and the language he used grew up out of that time. Him, from his cultural circumstance, speaking to others from their particular cultural circumstance. Can we see through his eyes? Can we imagine what the world looked like? Can we try to stand in his shoes and let his teachings and interpretation of classical Tibetan Buddhist practices and texts and conclusions about the nature of mind, the nature of reality, teach us afresh when we let go of reading them through this is who I am at this particular time in this particular city, and is this relevant to me? Suspend that question until you've had the chance to look at the world afresh. Take it in from the inside out. Let that view kind of seep into the corners of your mind, into corners that you don't often open up to. And as you breathe into that view from the inside out, then see later, how relevant is this? How can I translate this? How does this make sense? How does this inform me? How does this enrich me? But take that view on its own terms through getting into the vision and perspective of the one who gave that view. The second tool for transformation has to do with the meditative mind. Let go, with the ability to simply let go, to allow the experience of awe and wonder at the sacred, to allow that stillness of being, that sense of the infinite, that feeling of coming home to oneself, of resting deeply in oneself, to permeate your experience. And if you're reading a passage, let the book fall to your lap or close the book and give yourself to the meditative experience. You may not need long. Maybe you need a minute. Maybe you need 5 minutes. Maybe you get lost in meditation for an hour. It's not the quantity, but it's allowing, it's letting go and allowing the scent of the sacred to permeate our entire being. It's almost like if you light incense, outside and you leave the back door open, eventually it will permeate the entire house. And in that way, we want to allow the scent of the sacred to permeate our inner selves. And that comes through letting go. It comes through gently resting. It comes through being open. It comes through not holding on to anything. It comes through a sense of delicacy and appreciation and reverence. The last tool for transformation that I wanted to encourage you to work with is gratitude. Gratitude for all of those who've come before us and all of those who are walking shoulder to shoulder with us in the world now, bringing spirit to the forefront of our minds and hearts in a world that's very material. Gratitude for the bravery of those who came before us, gratitude for the austerities, gratitude for their vision, gratitude for their curiosity, gratitude for all those others that they inspire, gratitude for the little footholds and examples of microcultures that were moved and founded on spirit. The more appreciation that we develop for others, the more respect and appreciation we develop towards ourselves. Because as we start to realize that in any day and age, spiritual transformation was challenging, then the effort we make, we don't fall so easily into frustration or feeling that we haven't done enough. Every conscious energy that we put into spiritual life is valuable, and it takes something of the being, and as we give respect for that, then it grows in us and it deepens in us, and we're working against our cultural climate that doesn't create a lot of room for the sacred. It hasn't given us a lot of doorposts in our lives where it's okay to put that in the forefront. So we want to express our gratitude for others who have done that, and for ourselves as we pursue that. And that's going to make it more familiar, more habitual, more possible. And as the sacred context becomes more possible for us and more familiar and more real to us, it's going to be easier and easier to go through those grooves. So those are the 3 tools I wanted to share with you, and hopefully this is going to help enrich your experience with the Great Awakenings e-learning course that Chris Parrish and I have prepared for you.